Really awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I still need to actually go on that app. I know because we talked about it before Elevate, and I still have not played it. So
Yeah. Check it out. No, it's cool. I think honestly, we've been playing some chess lately. I think
I
like
know
the
I'm too busy
chess,
on the chessboard.
yeah, I know. I think even like games like chess though, like right, I mean, we talk about this like Maddie, or it's like, even stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I think this is actually even like till this day helping me just like playing on a regular basis, kind of testing my brain and like my problem solving or whatever. I think they all are things that I still to this day like notice if I don't read for a few weeks or don't do these games, I'll be slower. I think so. It's interesting to kind of have like it's cool to have a thing you can kind of engage with and like kind of quantify
Definitely.
your development.
I actually have a question, Garrett, because you were talking about before how you were at this point in your life when you had your brain injury where you didn't really know what you were what your next move was going to be. You just moved back to Seattle and trying to figure that out. But I was wondering if your brain injury ended up bringing you any clarity with that.
As far as like the next steps?
Yeah, or like what you wanted to do next.
I don't know if it brought me any real clarity. I mean, I think like it's still like TBD till this day, like how like I could see it playing like a bigger part of my life down the road as far as like what to do for work. And I mean, I'm definitely still very involved in the brain injury community here in Seattle. But no, I mean, I think if nothing else, it like definitely kind of like drew a line a bit more in the sand. I was like, okay, life before, now you got to start the new life. And it kind of made it almost in some ways made it like the transition, I'm not gonna say easier, but like it kind of just like made it more defined, right? Because like when I was leaving a ski town, I think if the accident had not happened, that like I would have been looking back to my life every day that I had been living. And like by all means, once I kind of started working more of a 9 to 5 after my accident, working daily, I still kind of miss that life. But I think the accident in some ways did help make the transition more defined, which was good and bad. But I think overall, a lot of benefits, honestly, actually, yeah.
It's a really good way to look at it. And I like that how you said about the reading and math, that it wasn't completely relearning it, but it's just like it wasn't quite right. And that you had to
yeah. Well, it's always funny. It's like you always like try to think like how you're gonna word to someone asks you like, well, what was it like? I'm like, I was like, well, if I say I had to relearn how to read and write, it's gonna sound really crazy, and they're gonna think I'm this like miracle story. I'm like, I'd have to completely relearn. I like had to relearn a little bit, but I had a baseline of like 4th grade maybe.
Like I'm sure you had to like rebuild up like your endurance too for reading. Like you can't just come back in and be reading like 3 hours a day straight, like maybe you might have been able to before. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, for me, it was like kind of hard to like have like a cognitive, like a baseline to see like where I was at before the accident. Cause I was like a ski bum, like just skiing and not using my brain like a ton every day. So like, like it was kind of hard to like gauge, like, initially, I mean, like not initially it was very easy to gauge if I was feeling better because every day or every month I was feeling better. Right. But yeah, anyways, the baseline's a bit unclear as far as my cognitive abilities, but definitely, yeah, I don't know. It's a thing you kind of continue to assess on a less frequent basis these days, but still assess on occasion.
Did you suffer from any headaches or migraines because of the injury?
I got super lucky. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Especially, I don't really know how you quantify how bad your brain injury was, but I think mine was pretty bad. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think it's all about where it happens, what age you were when it happened. But it's crazy. I'm super lucky because like I have a friend who fell in a shower once and she has had migraines ever since. And that was like, I'm like, because she asked me that question, she was like, oh, how are you doing with the migraines? I was like, I don't have any. And she's like, and she was just kind of blown away. It's so specific to where you fall, where you hit, and there's so many moving pieces, I think, right? So
do you know which part of the brain it was for you?
It was like, I think like right up here. I think that's where I think I just like came down like right up there. Yeah, I could share some photos.
Oh my.
No, I think that's like where it was. So it was like kind of like that side, that the frontal part of the frontal cortex, maybe. Is that what it's called? You guys know?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. That's why I was like, what's that part again? I'm just amazed, like the fact, like you said, that you just broke your wrist. Like obviously you have something looking out for you because the fact that you only broke your wrist and like you said, your brain injury for your health the fact that you had your helmet on and it flew off and you didn't have more damage, and I know that's relative, I hate saying that, it's like, didn't have any damage, I freaking have some brain damage, like who gets to judge what's really a lot and what's a little? So I just think that that is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's super lucky. And like, since I still like am involved on like in the traumatic brain injury community and stuff, like I'm on the traumatic brain injury advisory board for the University of Washington. And it's like me, it's like mostly scientists, right? But there's like me and one other survivor that are also on the board. And, you know, just kind of seeing her experiences and hearing her story a bit. And then also just like seeing just some other random gatherings, like seeing other people who had traumatic brain injuries, especially to the degree which I had mine, like usually have pretty substantial physical injuries as well. So I definitely am super lucky, especially because as you can see behind me, my life is pretty physical. So it definitely, you know, played a big part, and also, you know, played a big part in the fact that like I say or claim that my physical activity helped with my recovery, right? So that's like super lucky for sure.
I think that's like, there's definitely a lot of merit to that statement though, because I've noticed the same in my recovery journey, just like being, once I was able to walk and, you know, do a little bit more, getting that physical activity every day is so important and helps like tremendously.
Right.
On so many levels, I think.
I agree too. I think, like you said, went back to work. I know a lot of people can never go back to work, but the fact that you're kind of, well, I was pushed into it. It was, you used all your sick days. You don't qualify for FMLA. Like, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to work. But in a way, I look and I know a lot of people, I'm like, it made me have to overcome like a lot. So I think I like that you were like going and getting back physical and getting back into work, even if it was, you know, sweeping and doing something different than what you were doing, just making your brain do things and getting back into kind of a routine.
Right. Yeah. No, it was super, super helpful, and definitely like, yeah, it's, yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I know, you know, obviously I know Maddie's story a little bit, but I mean, both you guys are stroke, what do you say, stroke victims? What's the language you use for that, I guess? Stroke survivors?
Stroke survivors, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so wild is me and Maddie both had a hemorrhagic stroke.
But it affected in very, very different ways.
Right. Oh, as far as like the effects that it had after. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Like I was only crossed in for a couple, like 2 months, and then that came back. So physically, I have no deficits. Mine's all mental. Mine's all cognitive and like behavioral things.
How long ago was yours?
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
So,
okay.
So right, Maddie, I'm just 1 year.
You're
older.
about to be 5 years because I'm about to be 4 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I still suck at numbers real bad.
Yeah.
So that's why
I should
resonated
start
with me,
doing
the
this
math thing.
Elevate app because I'm not that good at math. I need to get better at that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't before my injury either, so.
Yeah. Well, see, like I was really good. I think that's what's hard is I was really good at that. And so I know that like, I just play it off now, like, oh, whatever, it's silly, because like I used to like cry over every silly mistake. Like I'd be like, I just feel so dumb. Like I like that you said I wasn't on my A game, because I just tell people I feel like I went from an A+ student to a C-. Like,
right.
And so that was definitely frustrating because I was a research assistant. I was a special education assistant. So like I worked with kids, I could do all that. And going back, like they moved me, well, I was in a high risk room, but they moved me to a smaller classroom with the younger kids. And like, I was having to read like kids books, like for kindergarten, first grade. And I was like stuttering and having like a little bit of a difficult time. But I like that you said, like you would practice. And I look back now and I'm glad that like they made me do that, because it forced me, because like, if it was left up to me, I wouldn't have done it, but it's like, you got to read for the kids. Like, it's like, okay, I have to overcome this. So.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have, Garrett, any like, because we were talking a little bit about routine, like do you have any type of daily routine that you've started doing that you feel like is something like, oh, if I don't do this, like I have a bad day, like I have to do these things?
Not really. You know, I think I try to play Elevate as much as possible. That's pretty small. You know, and like I think like just for like my physical side of things, like definitely try to be like more aware of how much water I drink. It was like things like small little things I just kind of now have like tried to focus on a bit more. I think try is the key word. Like sometimes I, forget that I had a traumatic brain injury and I go to a wedding and party for a weekend and forget about everything that happened in the past or whatever, and which is like, kind of a blessing in disguise. I remember like the first time I forgot about my accident. It's been like a few days since I thought about it. It was like such a big chapter for me, and,
Wow.
but yeah, so my daily routines have kind of like shifted away a little bit. Again, I think like this one I've been able to be more physically active, and I think that for sure has just helped my general like mental health and well-being. And I think like I think we talked about Maddie, where it's like there's just like things I feel like it's hard to gauge because I'm also getting older, but like feeling more sensitive to things like, okay, if I don't get enough sleep, do I feel more tired? Do I feel more impacted by that? Do I, if I don't eat well, if I don't drink enough water, like, do I feel like I'm more impacted by that? Like maybe hard to say for sure, but it's like just trying to be more aware of that sort of stuff, so not necessarily like daily routines, but more just like more increased awareness. Yeah. Right.
I love that you're talking about that, because I would say the same, at least for myself. And it could be anything. Like the other day, actually, I was with my friend and we went to this nice dinner and did like a wine pairing with our dinner. And I was like recovering from, I didn't even drink like a ton or anything, but I was like still recovering from that experience for like days. I don't know if that's just me getting older, or if that's brain related, but
a little bit of both. Welcome, Maddie. 25, like, woo, I'm gonna tell you in 30. Oh my God.
The hangovers get worse when you turn 30.
I don't get hangovers. Don't jinx it, or don't jinx it.
You hold on to that. I can't wait to replay this on the time you had your hangover.
Well, it'll be like next month. I'll turn 26 and then all of a sudden get the worst hangover ever. Like, this is what I was missing out on.
But I think it's really awesome that you mentioned the water intake, because I definitely, as Maddie's drinking water, noticed that before my brain injury, like I know it's always been important, but I can tell like days if I haven't drank enough water, it's like, no wonder your head is hurting, or no wonder you feel really bad.
It's crazy. It does make a difference. Like before my stroke, I never drank water. And then now it's, I don't know, especially if I'm in somewhere like a warm place where it's hot outside, if I'm not drinking water, like I'll faint or whatever.
That made me think, do you have, because you were injured right there, because Maddie has like her one affected side will get sunburnt